Hello, everyone. I get this question, so I don't know. I'll just talking about it. Look, I don't script. I don't write things down. I speak off the cuff, and basically, like this topic is a war with China. I mean, is China going to go to war? So, I mean, I don't know. You can't predict. Nobody can predict. But what we can look at is their likelihood, or then if you look at the historical thing, then you can judge for yourself. So, for example, like the first thing is history, right? China has gone to war in history. First of all, I want to point out that most of the conflicts in China have been internal. They've had the biggest civil wars than any other country in the world, killing their own people basically. So you have to know that. That's one part of history. The other thing is that okay, the countries they've gone to war with. So they've gone to war with in when to create North Korea, they were just sending hordes, like the kill ratio or the casualty ratio, but casual. I'm not going to go into the technicality of the word casualty, but if you look at the casualty ratio to between the Americans and the Koreans and the Chinese, it was huge. Like you could say like you know 50 guys die from the Chinese side to one guy dying from the other side, but they just sent in hordes. The next thing is they went to war with India in 1962. It was a very limited, small conflict, and but they gained territory because we had a very silly prime minister at the time who like basically coined the term that Indians and Chinese are brothers, kind of thing, and then the Chinese had a laugh about it and came over, and there was no troops at the border. When they finally arrived and repelled, we had lost territory. But then people don't know that we had two other small conflicts where we took territory from China, which was Sikkim and things like that. Anyway, but then the other one was Vietnam. China went to war with Vietnam. Again, but they got repelled by the Vietnamese. It was very embarrassing for the Chinese. That was in the 1970s. I forget. And but you have to know that all these wars were land wars. Like basically, like China was not going across any water, any sea, anything like that. Now the second point is that Chinese have an aircraft carrier which they are, you know, want to commission. Now it's in sea trials. Now people don't understand sea trials, but they take a long time. They usually take over a year, especially for something that size, because it's not just the ship. Sea trials means training, making sure that everything is coordinated. And then the aircraft carrier has a group, right? So basically, it has to coordinate all ships and train everybody, train thousands of people basically for to commission an aircraft carrier. It's a big deal. So at the earliest, you're looking at uh, next year, 2023. Not next year. About 2 years. You're looking. That's my opinion. I mean, you can judge yourself. The other thing is, interestingly, like just recently, a few days ago, Chinese have banned men having vasectomies in China. It's banned. Now you can look at why they've done that. You have to think about it too. Because in wars, if China expects that they're going to send people to war, so if they lose 30% of their male population, then they expect them to reproduce after that. Otherwise they have a crisis, population crisis, which they created of their own, having the one child policy. So, I don't know if that's, a prediction or, if it's, part of this thing. Finally, if China commissions its aircraft carrier, the newest one, because then China will have ability to go a certain distance. Like what people are thinking about Taiwan or Philippines or Japan. That China can then mess in that range because the aircraft carrier is not like the American aircraft carriers. It can't do. It can't do. It's not a global. It's not a. It's not a long distance. Now the next point is allies, right? Like if you go to war, then you expect certain people to help you out. Like if you looked at Germany, it was Germany, Japan, like that. In World War II. Now China, their ally pretty much right now is Pakistan. The other people are not allied with China. They're sort of forced to be friends with China because of debts. That's another thing. And then the last thing is a funny thing is because of my connections, I can say that New Zealand is funnily on the Chinese side, but as an ally, I wouldn't say that they're an ally because New Zealand doesn't have military power. That's it. So basically, China doesn't have global allies. If you look at like statesmanship, then hats off to Shi Modi ji. He's the greatest statesman I think in the world right now. You know, there's no doubt about that. I mean, he can get the Russians and the Americans to be allies with India. So there's there's nobody better than in the world than Shi Modi ji, our Prime Minister of India. But Chinese haven't achieved that. Okay, another point I want to make: Chinese premier, or that you can say the head of the state, he hasn't come out of his house for almost 2 years. Like he's just not visible. You don't know. So all these things make it unpredictable because he hasn't made any statements, nothing about what's going on. Like I don't what's going on internally in China, where there's internal conflict within them. Like I said, my first point, like they're the biggest country in the entire history of the world, which has internal conflicts. Now, that's pretty much it. That's what I want to say. The rest, I'll leave it up to the audience. Like you guys can decide from the limited points I've made. I give this a lot of thought, but I mean, you have to make this video short because people don't have attention span. So I'm reaching almost 8 minutes, so I'm stopping. You guys can decide the rest. Thank you.